Well, straight to business we go. Well, today's business, because one of the things that we've heard over time is that whenever we hear of wars, some people are making humongous amounts of money, and of course, the issue here is the Israel-Hamas war that we understand is ongoing right now. Some 181 ballistic missiles were said to have been launched into Israel by Iran, and leading to about 1,800 rocket sirens sounding across the country. And in all of it, what we understand is that one fatality has been reported of a Palestinian worker from Gaza who was killed as a result of fragments of rockets that fell in the city of Jericho in the West Bank, and some of those images that you are seeing right there. Well, Dr. Dapo Thomas joins us this morning to give us some understanding of what is going on. He is a foreign affairs analyst and an international law expert. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So first of all, give us a general understanding. Is Israel, Hamas, there's Lebanon, there's Iran, there's Hezbollah, there's Yemen, there's Houthis. The words what's the connection to all these?
Okay, now we are the international system is witnessing a very disturbing development. We are beginning to see the transformation of non-state actors now becoming state actors, transforming or transiting from terrorist organizations to government, not even government organization, government itself. And this is exactly what Iran is doing in the Middle East, and for strategic reason. So for now, there are so many militia organizations, but the most prominent ones now are the Houthis in Yemen. They control 80% of they control the capital, Sana'a, and then Sana'a of Yemen. I mean, Sana'a, the capital of Yemen. So they control the capital, they control most part of North Yemen, and almost 80% of the country. The same thing now in Lebanon. There is a government in place, but Hezbollah is a very powerful, not political party. They are not even calling themselves a political party. They are a terrorist organization known to the international community, but they believe that they are a political party. So they control 30%. 30%. They are not in charge in Lebanon. Then you have Hamas, 100% in charge of Gaza. Now, my position or my thinking is that Iran has planned this in order to find a way to either distract Israel or to create a situation, a scenario for Israel where it will be very difficult to contend with all these proxies. In fact, by the time Israel finishes with the proxies, it is believed, or that is their calculation, Iran's calculation, that they will be war weary, or they will be, their armaments will be depleted, or so many things will have happened. So they can now come in. And that is exactly what is happening now. Why? Because when Israel started with Hamas, whether we like it or not, certain percentage of the armaments will have gone in terms of destroying the machine, the tunnels, everything, the infrastructure that Hamas had already invested in Gaza. While they were still fighting Gaza, while they were still fighting Hamas, Houthis and Hezbollah, they started distracting them. So at the same time, simultaneously, Israel has been fighting continuously since October 7 last year. Israel has been fighting a three-pronged war, although they said 5 because they have some other militias I think one in Syria, one in Damascus. So, I mean, one in Damascus and then maybe one somewhere. So, but the prominent ones are the three that I have mentioned. And as a result of this, Iran felt, as at yesterday, that the best time to come in now was what they did yesterday. It was a tactical thing, tactical and strategic. Why? Because they felt that if they should allow, because now Grand War had already taken place in Gaza, Grand War was about to start. In fact, it has started 3 days ago in Lebanon, southern Lebanon, and even some parts of inside Lebanon itself, Beirut itself. So the Grand War has started, and it will be very, very colossal. It will be a kind of colossal disaster for Iran if Israel should do Grand War. Already the personnel, the military personnel, had been depleted completely. The experienced ones, the most terrifying ones, you know. I'm talking about Nasrallah, and all his lieutenants. So they have already depleted their personnel, their military personnel. So now they want to go for their infrastructure. And that is exactly, I mean, the calculation of Iran when it distracted yesterday, because it knew that a lot of things will be unearthed in Lebanon if Israel should go for the ground ground operations, which they had gone. So now Israel got that strategy. They understood the tactical move. So they are pretending till now they have not responded to the missiles, 180 missiles that Iran fired into their territory.
They already declared that there is going to be consequences.
No. Declaration is different. Okay. I'm saying they have not taken any action. Yeah, okay. Instead of being distracted, they concentrated on Beirut, Lebanon. So as at yesterday, they were still firing. In fact, they have ignored till date, maybe it's 24 hours now, they have ignored Iran. Because, you see, the war Israel is fighting now is not necessarily the military action kind of, it's about Int'l. And they have the technology, they have the information, they have everything. The way Netanyahu spoke at United Nations General Assembly, you would know that they have their information. Mm-hmm. So they know, and they understand that it was a distraction for them if they should stop the ground operation in Lebanon.
So Israel knew that this was going to happen. Is that what you're saying?
Of course. There is no way they will be fighting Iran's proxies, 3 at the same time. And Iran knows how much it has invested in these 3 proxies.
One of the fears that a number of people might have is, look, Israel is at war, and now Iran is venturing in. Okay, once world powers begin to step in, are we not beginning to look at World War III?
I'm not seeing any world war happening as a result of this, and I will tell you why. Israel is a nuclear power, courtesy of Argentina, which sold yellow cake to them. Yellow cake is uranium oxide, which is part of the nukes that you use in making nuclear weapon. So by 1965, they got their nuclear weapon. So they are nuclear power. Naturally, Israel does not want Iran to be a nuclear power nation. Why? Because it doesn't feel comfortable. It doesn't feel comfortable with any of these terrorist organizations. Iran is a country, but it's more or less a terrorist state. You understand? It's more or less a state. When you start nurturing terrorist organizations and you are transforming them from terrorist organizations to government, then you are more or less a terrorist nation. So what they are doing is to make sure that Iran does not produce. U.S. has been doing that. U.S. did that during the time of Obama. They give them certain amount of money. Why? Because, you know, these people belong to MPT. You know, they are part of the signatory to the MPT, and they must not, you know, they are signatories to the MPT, so they must not produce, they must not manufacture nuclear weapons. So, but there must be some compensation. So the compensation may come in terms of either you lift the sanctions already imposed, or you give them certain monetary concessions, you know, which was what Obama did. But Trump did not like it in any way, so he stopped it. By 2018, he stopped. He stopped the something once it expired. So he said he would not be paying. Why, if they want to go ahead to do nuclear, to produce, let them go ahead and then we'll deal with them. So Netanyahu was never happy with Obama's position, with what he did to allow Iran to continue. So as at today, Iran had developed its uranium. It has enriched its uranium to the level that it can produce a nuclear weapon in 12 days. That's what the IAEA is saying, that in 12 days they will produce nuclear weapon. I don't think they are finished. They have succeeded. I mean, they have been able to do that completely. And it was a very wrong move they made yesterday. If you have 12 days to produce your uranium, I mean, to produce your nuclear weapons, and you don't know what kind of information that Israel has, don't forget, Iraq was almost making similar nuclear weapon as at 1981. It was this same Israel that destroyed the nuclear reactor. They destroyed it completely. They destroyed the nuclear reactor, you know, in 1981. So now Iran wants to build its own. So you made this move, firing 180 missiles into Israel's territory, and yet you don't know what information they have as it relates to your nuclear weapon development. So now if Israel, and you know, the way Israel is taking this thing, I am believing, I mean, the Israel that I know, you know, I haven't done most of my work on them. The Israel that I know, I believe that exhibiting this kind of confidence and trying to ignore or pretend to ignore what Iran has done. Already they are planning, I know, but I don't want to speculate that US is going to join them. It's not yet a moment when US will join. If you are saying, so it depends. What can cause escalation? What can cause escalation is if Israel now destroys the uranium facility, if they have information, if they have the intel, if they know how to get it, and then they destroy, that can enrage Iran. And if that happens, what they would end up fighting with normal conventional weaponry, no more nuclear weapon. Because if Israel destroys it, that's the end. So they will now have to fight with conventional weapons. And you can't fight Israel with conventional weapons only. No, it's not possible. You can't win a war with Israel, I mean, fighting using conventional weapons. And let us even go hypothetical. I don't see Russia joining Iran in fighting this war. No, I don't think so. The reason is that Israel is a very troublesome nation to fight with. You will see from all over, you will see that the tendency is there. Most of the nations, whether you are China, whether you are this, whether you can even see, I mean, US, the way they are pampering them. You know, so it's difficult. Nobody wants to incur the wrath of Israel. So I don't see Russia fighting against Israel.
Okay, but you know, from the comments of the president of Israel, the prime minister of Israel, you know, when he spoke at the UN, it seems like there is another angle to the war, and that is the war of narratives. When he was saying that, look, I came, even though I didn't want to come, because I wanted to change some narratives. What do you think he's talking about there?
Well, I was talking about, you see, the picture being projected by the media, international media, is presenting Israel as a barbaric nation. Barbaric, that is killing children and killing women. Because most of the time, most of the reports are always about 90 people died, mostly women and children. So he went to explain and to show pictures of how and why they are having this kind of high rate of collateral damage. What happens? What is happening is that most of the civilian institutions, civilian buildings and everything had been commandeered by the terrorists, by Hamas, by Hezbollah. So they have they are planted most of their rockets inside civilian houses, inside ordinary houses, instead of creating military bases and then, you know, setting up their own something. But they know that once they do that, Israel will definitely target them. So they like this kind of outrage against Israel, because there is no way, once you fire a building, the children there will die, the women there will die. So that's what they are presenting. But nobody is saying, nobody is looking at the fact that, I mean, nobody is talking to the terrorists. Nobody's talking to Hamas. Nobody's talking to Hezbollah. That, look, why are you involving children and mothers? Why are you planting all these things in the homes?
Which also draws the question of how you think it should be addressed when the Prime Minister says, the Prime Minister of Israel says, I mean, Netanyahu says that people should get out of harm's way. Women and children should be taken away from areas of harm and all those things. How do you see that happening?
That's what is happening, because they have already told them to evacuate. They should move. But you know, what is causing the outrage is that they have not made provision for where these children and these women will go. So if you want to do this kind of thing, but you know, that's being sentimental in the sense that they are fighting war. And so once they are fighting war, they are not expected to be moralistic, to the point that they now have to go be spending their money. He even went to the extent of saying that they spent their money to buy food for the women, I mean, for the people of Gaza. But this food will now be taken over by Hamas militias. And those ones will now go and be feeding themselves. They will leave the children, they will leave the women. So it's very difficult, I mean, to suggest now that they should find a way how to move those people, the children and the women, away from their homes.
Okay. Well, a woman is about to get in this conversation now. Malpe, please go ahead.
All right.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Dapo Thomas. It's great to, you know, listen to your analysis. However, now, you know, we know that Hamas drew first blood from Israel last year with the attack it had on young people and the concert they were organizing in Israel, which Israel has now relentlessly attacked Gaza for. There are those who have said, look, what Israel has done is an overreaction. Even its allies are weary and, you know, have been looking for how to have, you know, ceasefire and all of that. Even the position that Israel has taken has made, you know, the defending the war it has waged on Gaza very, very difficult. People who ordinarily would have supported the war are now, you know, against this war. You have countries like Spain who are speaking up. You have South Africa, our own on the continent here, saying that they had already taken Israel to the International Criminal Court. These are some of the things that we have seen as a result of what has happened since Hamas, first of all, drew blood and Israel decided to attack. At what point would you say, you know, that enough is enough in this war? At what point would we have argued that the amount of collateral damage that Israel has exacted in the process of trying to, you know, take out leaders of certain groups, what he's done now in Lebanon, at what point will we say it is justifiable?
Well, it's always very difficult when war breaks out. It's always very difficult to measure the statistics. You know, if you killed 1,200 people in somebody's country, you carried, I mean, you actually invaded the country, and then you killed 1,200 people. You took away hostages of maybe about 200 plus. And these same people now want to revenge. And it's it's at their discretion to determine when to stop. It is at their discretion. It is always very difficult in war to say that, okay, because these people killed 1,200, took 500 people, so you now want to go to Gaza to also go and kill 1,200, or to go and also take hostages of 500. When war breaks out, particularly all-out war like this, there won't be any sentiments. There is no sentimentality in war. So once it is at discretion, no matter the kind of, you can see, even the US supplying them the arms, giving them the arms, deploying armaments and everything for them, has told them several times to go into, to have a ceasefire, but they have refused. So it is at their discretion. But on our own side, we can be moralizing that, no, this is not fair. How many people were killed? Only 1,002. And now you have gone as far as killing 38,000, 40,000 people. You understand? So the best thing is to always avoid war. Don't go into war if you do not have the capability to respond to whatever aggression your opponent or your adversary is going to unleash on you. Don't start any war if you cannot fight it to the logical conclusion. Don't start any war. Once you start it, you can never know, you can never tell how it will end. They never anticipated, I'm talking about Hamas now, never anticipated, and in any case, they said it was even at the prompting. Those who are saying are not even your ordinary states. I'm talking of Jordan. I'm talking of Saudi Arabia. Giving information that, look, this particular thing was done so that Iran can do this, can do that. Iran has its own agenda. And since Hamas is a proxy, they can send it. I have a language for it. It's Iran state. You understand? But they call it proxy. You know? So they can send them any message. And that was what they did. Unfortunately, it has backfired. They never anticipated that Israel will go this to this extent in achieving the objective. And before they even went to the war, they stated about 5 objectives. And until they achieve these goals, these objectives, they will never relent. They will never stop. So it's unfortunate that they were the first to strike. The same thing with Iraq. The same thing with Iran now. I would have expected, because Israel is hungry. Israel is hungry, and they have dealt with the Houthis, they have dealt with Hamas. They are now going, they have practically dealt with the Hezbollah. I'm so sure that this kind of comprehensive attainment, this kind of comprehensive triumph may want to prompt them to go and attack Iran, and that will be very suicidal for them. That is when the whole world will now be against them. Unfortunately, once you attack any nation, you can see the nation, all the nations condemning Russia for attacking Ukraine or for invading Ukraine. Once you are the first aggressor, you are not likely to command the collective sentiment or maybe sympathy of most of the nations. So that is what they have done now. They shouldn't have attacked Israel. They should have waited. Israel definitely will want to attack, because their mission is to ensure that they deal with all these proxies and Iran itself. So Iran anticipated whatever and then decided to go and do 180. If the fact that they have even stopped to fire missiles again, because I don't understand, because you have said 2 things now, and they are 2 different things. And in war, you need to be specific. They said they have declared war on Israel. That's one. Meanwhile, I saw it again. They said that was a retaliation for the killing of Nasrallah. You understand?
So it's a whole load of stuff to unpack, and I think Marco is still on the floor. But I understand that we need to, for those of you who are with us on DSTV, the Oyo State government, is commissioning local government house and staff training school and at the State Secretariat Local Government House, Ibadan, Oyo State. So you can continue with us here and now, but for those who are watching us on DSTV, that's the information that you may be seeing on your screen from after this particular moment. So, but I don't know if Markwe is done, but so where do we go from here? What is Nigeria's place in all of this conundrum? Do we have anything to fear? Because it's only natural, right?
Two things. One, I belong to the school of thought that Nigeria, from this moment, should start vocalizing its position on some of these international some of these international issues or developments. All these things are being recorded for history and posterity. So you need to be talking. What's your position? What do you think? Even if you say you are non-aligned, you can still make a statement, a dispassionate statement, a statement that will not even commit you to any of the two sides. I mean, asking for peace is a normal thing. You understand? Nigeria calls for peace. Nigeria calls for this. Nigeria calls for cessation of hostilities. Nigeria wants a ceasefire. You are not taking sides. So you are being recorded. Your voice is being heard internationally, and that's good for you. Then the second part of it is that you probably start learning from some of these things. You start learning how you can, supposing there is a third world war, an outbreak of third world war, what will be your position? Are you going to remain non-aligned? Are you going to get yourself involved militarily? So what are the things you're going to consider? And then you start taking position now. There was, during this Al-Qaeda thing, the 9/11, so most people were joining US and everything. So when US saw that the number was not as high as it had anticipated, so US now told, George Bush now told everybody, most of the nations, he told the nations all the way, that if you are not with us, you are against us. So everybody started registering. Everybody started taking side. So now, in a situation like that, what will happen if a third world war happens? So what will be your position? Are you going to take side with Iran? Are you going to take side with US? Are you going to take side with Israel? So, but that may not be something you make pronouncement. It's not something you. The first one, yes, you can pronounce. You can state your position without necessarily taking any side. But this one, you would have it as a policy. You tell your foreign policy thinkers, you tell them, now let us meet. In a case, in an unlikely situation, or maybe in a likely situation that a war erupts, what should we do?
Okay.
What will be our position?
Well, thank you so much for your time this morning, Dr. Dakwa Thomas, foreign affairs analyst and international law expert. Truly appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having me.
We have some reactions, Markwe, Chamberlain.
Well, we've got this one that came through from Ademola Alalade, who says, the president's speech, that's what he's talking about this time, says it was a bit disconnected from the people, as most of his statements show that the hardship being experienced is not felt by those in government. Even though he mentioned some of the achievements recorded, many felt they're on their own.
Well, Pastor Law Alpha Cross says the president's speech was laden with the clarion call for Nigerians to be patient with the policies of government that have not translated to economic rejuvenation and prosperity. But the question is, does an empty belly hear the gospel?
It depends on the kind of gospel. If it's infrastructure gospel, stomach infrastructure gospel.
It's a big question.
All right, guys, that wraps it up today. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.
Thank you for watching. I'm Malkwell Gun Yusuf. Keep your eyes open and keep your ears to the ground.
Absolutely. And I am Akine. Do have a beautiful day.